So, hey everyone, good morning. And as the topic of the topic of today kind of suggests, we'll be talking about mostly Azure speech, right? So, and I'll give a brief intro of myself, and then we'll start, right? So, this is Naman, and I'm a product manager in the Azure Cognitive Services, specifically in the speech side, right? So, Azure Cognitive Services, as you might know, is kind of it's a conglomerate of many things. We work in the language side, we work in the language translation side. Now we have added Azure OpenAI to our portfolio. Like around a month back, I believe my manager had a talk on this, right? And I specifically work on the speech side of things, right? Speech services, that is speech to text, text to speech, and translation between languages, right? So this is my domain, and I'll be briefly, mainly talking about these areas. So let's start. So yeah, as I said earlier, right? Our team is Azure Cognitive Services, and this is the AI portfolio that our Azure Cognitive Services as a whole works on. We have a chatbot service. There is a PDF form recognizer that is available. Video indexing, matrix advisor, immersive reader, kind of different forte that our team works at, right? And our use case primarily kind of deals with two primary set of kind of customers. First is like the citizen developers, right? So the citizen developers are the developers who prefer the no code experience. They don't like to kind of explore the SDKs. They don't like to write the code themselves and interact with APIs. They prefer something which is very heavily UI driven, something which is very easy to use, and they can kind of readily play around with these speech technologies and hand, and not work on the code itself. So the citizen developers, we have a offering called as Speech Studio, for which I'll kind of have a short run through later. And for the developers and the data scientists, we have the SDKs available, right? And of course, SDKs offer a lot more kind of flexibility in terms of the capabilities to the user. And there are four primary divisions in which these SDKs are available: vision APIs, speech APIs, language, and decision making, right? Now, kind of, and I'll just briefly touch upon what are the brief capabilities on this four, verticals. We'll be primarily talking about speech, but this is just FYI in case you would like to further know about these services. These services are also available. So on the vision side, you can see, right, there are OCR engines available. There's face recognition and object identification, which is available. The video in which you exactly saw the the lip syncing of the avatar, that is also vision capability, right? And how to kind of portray avatar which is speaking in the same audio which is being voiceover is being done. uh, I'll talk about speech in detail, so I'll skip that for now. And then next is kind of language capabilities. Now this language capabilities is kind of it's in a state of upheaval. We used to kind of support a lot of language capabilities, where language detection, key face extraction, sentiment analysis, personal information kind of detection, summarization, and question answer generation from structured text. uh, in decision making also, we used to kind of support the kind of, you used to flag potential unwanted messages or dangerous images. Many kind of decisions used to be supported, but all this, like third and the fourth pillar, right, the language in the decision pillar has been heavily affected. Not, I wouldn't say affected, but heavily kind of impacted by the advent of chat gpt, right? And Azure OpenAI kind of having chat gpt integration itself, this whole language and detection decision making process has seen a feel, and the capabilities are unlimited now. We are not limited by the tech, and it's much more powerful on what we can do on the third and the fourth vertical, right? On the suite services, which my team kind of works on, so we kind of support these many capabilities, right? Standard speech, custom speech models, text to speech, custom voice. I'll talk about these in details, right, in subsequent slides, but these are our kind of core offerings. I'll first talk about speech to text, as the name suggests, right? We can kind of have the speaker speak in any languages that they are speaking in, and we can get the corresponding text for it. And that is the intent of for speech to text. This is specifically the chart for Indian languages, right? So globally, we support like many languages, right? Around 300 plus languages that we support globally. Locally in the India market, we support all the major languages that are spoken, and this is ever increasing list, right? We are further introducing new languages into the market. In speech to text, as you can see, there are 9 major languages that we kind of currently support. Malayalam be the latest, which has been rolled out. In the text to speech space, we kind of support additional language of Urdu, right? And that is this is also kind of ever extending with Assamese and Oriya and other languages support is also kind of shortly coming up. then again we have language side, support, which is there for translation and transliteration and intent modeling. So translation is basically just kind of converting one language into another. Then the exact same script that exact same leap year script that the original language is supposed to be. Say English is Latin, right? So if I'm kind of converting text from English to Hindi, if the transcript which is generated in Hindi is in the same script that is Latin, then we call it as kind of transliteration. If it's in same script, then it's called transliteration. But if it's in the Devanagari script, that is the original script for Hindi, then it's called translation. So in this also we have many list of languages that we support. Talking about the key scenarios that we support as a part of our core offering, right? So there are like many key scenarios that we support for as a part of our speech to text models. First is the captioning, right? So as you might have observed in many as you might be seeing movies or TV series or all the other capabilities which have a audio, and oh, there's a power cut. I hope I'm still connected.
Yes, no.
Yeah. So this captioning is something which you are already aware, right? This captioning is essential part of how we kind of increase the reach of today's media, right? So movies which are written in probably Korean is consumable by us because of real-time captioning in our native language, that is Hindi. And we have two types of captioning services which are available. First is like the real-time captioning, and second is the offline captioning. Now, real-time captioning is applicable to live videos, that is, say, supposedly a sports commentary that is running for FIFA World Cup. FIFA World Cup was kind of consumed in 190 countries, whereas in the commentary which was there, which was only supported in like 4 or 5 major languages. In other languages, either it was like via real-time dubbing which was done, or the reach was kind of supported by real-time captioning which was done. Second is the offline captioning. So all the videos that are reaching you via movies or kind of TV series, they are not kind of processed, or real-time captioning is not done. They are kind of offline processed, and the errors are checked. They are kind of curated manually, and then they are kind of produced, and then they're kind of supplied forward. So that is the chain. And so yeah, Azure Cognitive Services the supply kind of supports this, and I'll kind of create demo on this, right? Yeah, so you can see this, right? These are some sample examples, and mind you, these are real call center examples that we have kind of taken. And as you might observe, right, call center kind of is one of the primary use cases of speech to text, with agent and customer talking. Because the end users have a lot of, or the call centers who are operating these call centers have a lot of scope of kind of analyzing these audios and kind of determining the important information from it, because they can kind of derive insights which can help optimize their scenarios a lot better. So I'll play a sample and just we'll try to check how speech to text is performing, or Azure speech to text is performing on these particular audios.
Good afternoon. This is Sam.
The audio is audible, right? Can you confirm?
Thank you for calling Contessa. How may I help?
It's audible, right? So yeah, so we can listen, right? Like I'll play the audio and we can see the transcript which is generated on the runtime, which can kind of help, right? First is like the sentiment of each particular transcript, whether the sentiment is positive, neutral, or negative, right? If it might be. And since this transcription is available publicly, we would also like to kind of mask certain entities which might be very private to users. So these kind of masking capabilities are also something that we provide. So I'll play the audio.
Hi there, my name is Mary. I'm currently living in Los Angeles, but I'm planning to move to Las Vegas, and I would like to apply for a loan.
Okay, I see you're currently living in California. Let me make sure I understand you correctly. You'd like to apply for a loan, even though you'll be moving soon. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So I'm planning to relocate soon, but I would like to apply for the loan first so that I can purchase an.
All right, thank you for your patience, ma'am. May I have your first and last name, please?
Yes, my name is Mary Smith.
Mary. Thank you, Ms. Smith. May I have your current address, please?
Yeah. So as you can see, right, it is able to correctly kind of detect every possible word that is being spoken in the audio, and it is also able to identify which word to display and which word to not. So that masking is happening. You are also getting the sentiment which is there on the left hand side, and there's also summary section, right? As you can click this, call summary section which is generated. So if the entire transcript is kind of uploaded, this particular kind of transcript will be kind of studied, and you'll be kind of getting a summary which is associated with this particular call. So in this case, you can see that customer wanted to apply for a loan. That is the issue that is being primarily kind of talked about. And the agent kind of what was the summary, what was the resolution that the agent gave? Then he asked for some customer information like such as email address, phone number, and he kind of placed customer on a brief hold. So these kind of insights are generated by the summary. Now again, this is kind of a old replica of what exactly we used to do with the existing language models, with the summary models. But this particular section that is called summary is now, it's like much more robust with the advent of ChatGPT integration that we are seeing in Azure OpenAI side, right? So that is kind of this is like just a preview of what is on offer. So yeah, so going back to the key scenarios, I was talking about captioning. Captioning is something that we support as a part of our core speech to text offering. Second is, like, you also already got a brief preview of why this is so important, right? So this India is being a outsourcing economy. There's a lot of call center and BPO scenarios that we support, right? We have a lot of our customers coming from this particular segment, that is call center, and the segment is a bit tricky in terms of kind of users speaking in multiple combination of many languages, right? India being a land of 22 languages and many dialects, and most of the users kind of speaking more than one languages, and also using a combination of languages to speak, right? With Hindi and English combination, that is English being the most common scenario. It's a specific challenge for us to kind of perform well in this particular scenarios where the language keeps on changing in the audio, right? You don't have a particular language to bind with, and detection is not kind of bounded by this particular boundaries of user speaking only one language. So this call center scenario is very peculiar. So I've kind of chosen this as because this is the hardest case to solve. And in the call center scenario, speech to text detection is an important scenario. As I was displaying the demo, right? Sentiment analysis is also important. Because this call center logs are generally studied. These logs are kind of studied by the companies which run these call centers to provide insights to their clients about what their clients are, what the call centers clients are kind of facing the most problems about, how their agents are kind of performing. So it's kind of these some kind of queries can be taken, or a bird's eye view can be taken on these issues, and a general opinion on where the company is headed or where the company performance is headed can be kind of formed, right? So these kind of insights are essentially generated by on a grassroots level by generating the transcripts first by these speech to text capabilities. And you can also use these insights to upsell across products. You can kind of use marketing decisions can be used based on the insights that are generated on these call center scenarios. So that is there. And there's also voice bot which is supported for this call center scenarios, right? You have a speech to text engine, and in many cases, right, when you're kind of ordering on Swiggy's, right, you can kind of order and you can place an order, and you have a chatbot which is kind of there in the background, right? You can it might seem that a real customer agent is kind of sitting in the background, but you also have a chatbot which helps generate the response which is most suitable for that particular scenario. And then the agent which is sitting in the background kind of gets an idea, okay, this response is most suitable for this particular scenario, and they can kind of help the kind of agent communicate much better in a much more speedier manner. So these chatbot support is also something that we provide as a core offering on our Azure Speech services. Yeah, so this is like call center demo, which I already like played for you, right? And this is an interesting use case, right? So as I was telling that in ending scenarios, most of the queries that we are getting is not exactly very easy, right? It's like a mix of many languages. There are a lot of technical terms which are involved in a custom call care center. Like if probably say the call center is of the health insurance domain, then the terms that which are spoken are very technical in nature, and it's very difficult for us to basically find out what the user is trying to say. So I'll just play a sample audio here.
Benign prostatic hypertrophy, all type of hernia, hydrocele, myomectomy, hysterectomy, arthritis, gout, rheumatism, joint replacement, sinusitis, stone in urinary bladder, dilated cartilage, dialysis required for chronic and renal failure, surgery on tonsils, gastric and...
So as you can listen, right, it's a bunch of medical terms which even for a human to understand is difficult, for a machine to understand is much more difficult. And this is how the universal speech models, right? I mean, we have two types of models that we kind of support for the speech to text. First is the out of the box models that are known as the universal speech models. These speech models are not they are trained on a very large data set, and they are very generic in nature, right? So the expected accuracy for very specific scenarios which are kind of requiring a very domain knowledge thing, it's kind of a bit low. So as you can see, like most of the words which are detected are wrong. It's like binary intercity key report, royalty, and all kinds of things which it's detecting. It's basically garbage, right? It's not kind of detecting it correctly. To kind of improve that, we have a custom ASR model which is kind of supported, right? What this custom ASR model does is you can kind of use the domain specific data to train your model, and it will kind of layerize the insights which is available. So your base model will be trained on generic data sets, right? It will be trained on data sets which is across the globe on different kind of data sets, but will not be very specific to the context in which you're dealing, right? So you have the capability in which you can kind of if you have an actual transcript available for this, probably in this case, say insurance sector, right? So in this insurance sector, if the company knows that these are the type of words which are generally occurring in our call logs, it can kind of generate the actual transcripts, supported with the original audio of that particular transcripts. And this audio and transcript pair, right, it can kind of generate probably say samples, thousands of this audios and transcripts, and supply to the model beforehand, saying that these are the type of audios and words that will be generated in runtime, and you have to detect it correctly. Once that is done, you can see this particular segment, right? Speech models trained on custom data. The accuracy has gone up like miles, right? Now, like most of the words were detected wrong in the first go, but now most of the words are detected correctly, and only the marks which are only the words which are marked red are detected wrong. So accuracy has kind of gone shot up from almost zero to around 98%, right? And this has been only been possible because of the custom model training that is available as a part of Azure speech recognition systems, right? There's a similar example for this, a second audio that I'll just play. So just observe the noise that is there, right? There's a lot of, it's a very noisy data. Call center scenarios offer a lot of, background noise, music, overlap between the voices that are being spoken. So these technical challenges are also kind of solved in the base models itself, right? These are kind of handled at the model level, and there's not a lot of audio curation that the user has to do before feeding their audios into our models, right? Speech to text models.
इसमें अगर कुछ भी एक्सीडेंटल में कुछ भी डेथ होती है तो डोमेस्टिक प्लस इंटरनेशनल कवरेज रहेगा आपका. पॉलिसी आपका इंडिया आउट ऑफ इंडिया दोनों जगह पे कवरेज रहेगा. जो इसमें बेनिफिट आपका एक्स्ट्रा बेनिफिट जो
right. So just like kind of reminder, these are actual customer call center data that we are kind of displaying here, right? So these are agents have kind of responded like this, and if I am to make sense why the general speech to text models that is available, out of the box speech to text model available, that then the number of insights that I can generate is very less, because the audio detection accuracy itself is very low. So any kind of insights has to be generated. The text which is to be fed into the GPT models has to be right, and for the chat, for the text that has to be that has to be generated to be right, the speech models has to perform very well, and that can only be obtained by the custom modeling that we are offering, right? The custom ASR models that we are offering. Now this is another interesting use case. This is also real-time transcription which is occurring with the additional functionality on top of it, which is like translation in language, in supported languages, which is also real-time. So one possible kind of use case which I saw was again in FIFA World Cup, right? When these transcripts were generated in the captioning file, even if the commentary was in English, the transcription was kind of there in multiple languages and generated on runtime, right? Which is kind of makes it very unique in terms of its capability. So I'll just play this example.
Frau Präsidentin, liebe Kollegen, liebe Kolleginnen, ich möchte meinen ganz herzlichen Dank an die Berichterstatterin Katrin Seiler aussprechen, die in diesem
So as you can observe, right, first the original language is Dutch. The lady speaking Dutch in the European Parliament, and this European Parliament is also kind of one of our unique use cases which Microsoft has been successfully able to solve and being in a very good partnership with, right? And the original language being Dutch. The transcript, if anyone wants to understand in English, it is also generated on runtime in English, right? And you can keep on hovering and keep on changing languages in between, as and when you like, right? So
technischen Bereich eine sehr wichtige Arbeit gemacht hat. Denn es ist nicht nur ein technischer Bericht, es ist auch ein hochpolitischer Bericht, den wir vor uns liegen haben.
Now this language is kind of changed to French. So
gemacht hat. Denn es ist nicht nur ein technischer Bericht, es ist auch ein hochpolitischer Bericht, den wir vor uns liegen haben, in dem hohe politische Standards auch respektiert werden mussten. Es ging da.
Yeah. So the capabilities are unlimited, right? These are just 3 languages that we have kind of shown in the demo, but any language, any audio which is spoken in any language, we now have the tech kind of to convert the language in any target language that you want and generate the transcript on runtime. So these are some of the scenarios that we are powering. Now, similarly, from speech to text, we have a text to speech engine also that we support. I'll switch to that, but before that, like on speech to text, is there any question, any doubt? I'll be happy to answer. Anyone? I'm assuming then we can start with Azure text to speech. So yeah, this Azure text to speech, right? What is the unique capabilities that we are offering as a part of our Azure text to speech? So the best part is like it's like completely natural, right? Human like natural voices are kind of generated by our text to speech engines, and the best part is like it's very difficult for a normal human to understand, without any technical analysis being done. It's very difficult for a common ear to understand that these recordings are actually distinguishable from people actually speaking on audio, right? So they're almost human-like. We are kind of slowly reached there where the bot-like bot voice is kind of inseparable from human voice. And how are we able to kind of achieve that? So there's a lot of speech scientist work which kind of goes into that, right? So acoustic-based model. So the acoustic prediction which is done is kind of reducing the listening fatigue, and it makes it very easy to the ears. The waveform generation is also very high quality, and we have a neural vocoder which kind of helps us achieve the same. And the third part is the universal applicability, right? So this is kind of essentially dealing with the scaling part of it. Since we support like around 300 languages, it's not easy, like feasible for us to develop one model for one language. So any model that is generated is kind of extendable across languages. It can be extended across genders also, like multiple speakers and multiple styles. We have a one large model which is kind of supporting every possible combinations, right? So this technical capability is something very unique. Now coming to this slide, right? This is something which is very specific to the Indian context. So in India, as like I said, right, India being a country of many languages, it's very important for us to get the Indian pronunciation right. Otherwise, the voice can easily be kind of caught as being bot voice and it not being a natural voice, right? So I'll just play some examples on it. So yeah, this is like the one voice multiple language support example, right? So whereas if we build a one particular voice, it can be used across languages without any difficulty.
मेरा नाम स्वरा है आमी तानिशा हालो ना पेरू सूती अने हु ध्वनि छु ha. Even though the real me can't speak all these languages, but all our languages are powered by the same voice and persona.
So as you can see, right, in this is across, it is able to kind of display multiple languages support, keeping the timbre of the voice same, right? So this cross local transfer is available, and second is kind of pronouncing the regional content, right? So as you might be aware, right, if you open a Google, Amazon Alexa or a Google voice assistant on your phone, it many times happens that the Indian entity recognition is not kind of coming out correctly. This is like Azure Cognitive Services is kind of unique in the sense that the entire speech technology team, which is kind of developing these models, is sitting in India, right? And as compared to our competitors, so they kind of don't know what exactly local context means in India, and kind of most of our biggest customer wins has been because of this reason, that we are able to kind of sit on the pulse of how exactly users speak in India and then kind of reflect accordingly. So I'll just play an example on this.
Anarkali, Salinki Mohabbat Tum Mar Nahindeji or Hum Tum Ji Nahindinya.
Yeah, so this particular thing is kind of coming from a global model, and something which our competitors has been kind of doing in the past, and how exactly we are kind of pronouncing the same text.
अनारकली, सलीम की मोहब्बत तुम्हें मरने नहीं देगी और हम तुम्हें जीने नहीं देंगे.
So as you can see, right, this particular entity recognition is something which is we are doing very well, and primarily one of the biggest reasons for customers flocking to Azure speech services is that entity recognition or Indian context names are kind of spoken very well. Now there's another kind of added feature that we provide as a part of our text to speech engines, that is the custom neural voice. This is a lot of things what we do with custom neural voice, but just to kind of summarize in a nutshell, custom neural voice is the capability by which any particular voice can be replicated just by kind of supplying some amount of training data for that particular voice, right? So supposedly, say if I have to kind of read a text in Mr. Bachchan's voice, I just need to give a couple of audios to our model with Mr. Bachchan's voice, and give a couple of transcripts, and the model will learn how Mr. Bachchan speaks, and he'll like be replicated very easily. If I'm giving any dialogue to handwritten dialogue by my own hands to that model, it will speak exactly like Mr. Amitabh Bachchan would speak that dialogue, right? So this is additional kind of feature where you can just mimic any person's voice. Of course, comes with a caveat that responsible AI caveat that if you're using this voice for your commercial purposes, we need to kind of perform some checks on the intention of generating any voice, right? So the brand identity can be kept intact. Any brand that you want to kind of display the voice for, you can kind of keep the identity intact, and then the customer persona and the natural interaction mode will also kind of remain intact. There's a kind of a detailed form. It's not like it's a capability, but it's not without a caveat, right? You need to kind of submit a form. Any company which needs to avail this needs to submit a form and then fill out the intention of this particular usage. The voice artist of which this particular usage, like voice is being kind of of which this recordings is being submitted, they also need to submit a no objection kind of a form in which they say that their voice might be used for commercial purposes. So there's a lot of paperwork which goes into it, but if the intention is right and if the use case is legit, then you can easily kind of generate your own custom voice of any person that you might like to write. So that is also available. Now this is also kind of an additional feature which is available on the Speech Studio, right? Which is the ACC tool, or the audio content creation tool. This audio content creation tool is again a UI supported tool where you can very easily kind of generate any audios that you want to generate for the text that is being given to you. And all the customizations, right? There are many customizations. So I'll give you a demo and I'll show what are the customizations that are available. But there are many customizations which are additionally kind of supported on this easy to use UI supported tool, right? Signature, visual editor, and font templates. I'll just give a demo later. So I'll skip this particular part here. And finally, speaking about the Speech Studio, right? So we have a lot of SDK capabilities available, and the documentation of which is kind of easily available on the website, right? And you can kind of explore. But we have observed in the past that these kind of capabilities which are SDK driven are very they require specialized specialized knowledge of coding, right? Not everyone can kind of use that. Only data scientists are able to kind of effectively leverage that. And we want our speech technologies to reach everywhere, with easy access to even the CEOs who are not very code friendly, right? So these speech studios specifically UI supported and easy to use interface for this very purpose, right? And this like some of the capabilities kind of covering this Speech Studio, but I'll let me kind of simply open the Speech Studio and show what exactly is on offer. And after this particular session is over, you are free to explore this Speech Studio. I would highly encourage everyone to go to Speech Studio because it's very easy to create. You just need a Azure resource, which is very easy to create, which is very easy to gain. And once you have the Azure resource, you'll be able to plug and play the speech applications that you might have, right? So I also played you this captioning demo which was there, which is ready to use on this Speech Studio, right? So you have a captioning service which is available. You have a call center analytics via the post call transcription analytics which is available. Now these are kind of applications or services built on top of our base speech to text and text to speech features. But if you want to explore the core speech to text functionalities, these are also available. The real-time speech to text custom speech pronunciation assessment. So this pronunciation assessment is an interesting one, right? Many of our kind of clients are using this for giving lessons on how exactly voice lessons or how exactly language is supposed to be spoken. So say I'm speaking a particular language, English in this case, and if I'm not pronouncing a word correctly, if I'm making grammatical errors, if I'm kind of making some mistakes with the my pronunciation, this can kind of readily flag out, and all the language training experts or courses which are offered in a country in background use these kind of services which are readily available. And we also have similarly text-to-speech capabilities in this Azure Speech, whereas we have a voice gallery in different voices that are supported, and custom voice, as I was talking about custom neural voice, right? You can just give some training data of any particular celebrity of any particular voice that you want to replicate, and you can generate this custom voice. And this audio content creation is again a tool which helps you kind of manipulate the minor details of how your voice should kind of come out. So these kind of facilities are available. There's also voice assistant available. So we had kind of Cortana as like Microsoft's voice assistant, which was essentially rolled out earlier. But this is kind of a layer on top of it, Cortana, which can help you curate many aspects of how you would want to interact with a voice-based assistant, right? So these are the functionalities which are available. I'll play some like 2 or 3 things. I'll just try to go into detail to just give you a flavor of how exactly these things work out, and you're free to kind of try out these functionalities. They are wonderful, and trust me. Yes, sir. So this is like the real-time speech to text. Now, as you can see, right, there are different languages in which this support is kind of available. The default is, of course, the English in US, which is the most common use case. But let me try for say Hindi here. So say if I want to kind of talk in Hindi, I can also record via microphone and generate it. मुझे लेटेस्ट मूवीज बताओ जो इंडिया में रिलीज हुई हैं. Yeah, so as you can see, right, मुझे लेटेस्ट मूवीज बताओ जो इंडिया में रिलीज हुई. This is not purely Hindi nature, right? This is kind of mix of Hindi and English, English as we call it. And even if the endpoint being Hindi, it is correctly able to kind of detect all the words and give the correct translated version for it. So you can kind of try out the capabilities via microphone. You can also browse the files and submit some audios which you have in the format of MP3s and try the text which is generated. And the accuracy wise, we are doing pretty good, right? I mean, we have in many third-party evaluations, we are doing better than Google and Amazon and most of the Indic languages that we support, right? So this is about the real-time speech to text. Similarly, we also have this voice gallery, as in the text-to-speech engines that we have. So straight away kind of jump to the audio content creation tool, as it kind of covers the capabilities of the earlier two segments also. So as you can see, right, we can kind of generate any voice that we want to generate just by giving the text here. So I'll just type a sample text here. This is just random sample, right, with the kind of I typed out. Now, as you see on the right side, right, there are many customizations that you can do with the audio content creation tool that is available. First is the voice segment, in which you can change the language. Again, the drop-down kind of offers many range of languages which you can work with. Let us keep English as the language which is there, Indian English. English. Yeah, Indian English, right? So in Indian English, you can see there are 2 voices which are kind of currently available. First is the female voice, which is Nirja, and second is the male voice. So let us kind of pick female voice for now. Now this is the voice which is there. Now there are kind of different breaks, standard, advanced, and custom, which we can kind of in this sentence, if you want to apply some breaks and stress on one particular word, that additional functionality is possible. If you want to add silence after a particular word, that is possible. If any pronunciation is not kind of coming out correctly, and you would like to detect the phone sequence of that particular word, so that the pronunciation comes out exactly as you want it. That is also kind of available. You can kind of add all these phenomes in a particular dictionary and add it as a lexicon if you want that this is the lexicon and these words should be pronounced exactly like that. If you are list for that, that can be kind of added. You can also kind of control the speed at which the model is speaking, also the pitch of it and the volume of it. So I'll just play some sample for the default settings right now.
Hey, it was a pleasure interacting with Azure community on demystifying speech services. Acha laga aaj.
So this, even this Acha Laga is not natively English in nature. It's like kind of Hindi, but we have translated it and written it in Latin. It is, able to kind of fluently say that as an Indian person would, right? And I can again play around with the parameters. I can play with the rate, right? I'll just try to increase the rate for it to speak a bit faster in this case. Really, increase the pitch a bit and decrease some volume, and then see.
Hey, it was a pleasure interacting.
So as you can see, right?
Hey, it was a pleasure interacting with.
The rate was a bit higher and the pitch and volume were kind of adjusted accordingly, right? So these are some of the features which are ready to use via the UI section of the Azure Cognitive Speech Studio in text-to-speech mode. But the API capabilities are far more diverse, right? You can do much more with API capabilities. But if you just want to use some basic features, then Speech Studio is your place to go, right? You can play around with the speech capabilities which are on offer here, and it's a good tool. Would request everyone to go through this after we have done with this. Yeah.